Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 68, and I am Adam Choit. And of course, I have no affiliation with the band. This is not an official podcast for them or anything. I am just a fan. And if you're checking out this show, I'm guessing there's a good chance that you might be too. As you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm doing the video thing, of course, now. So please be sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube. It's Tedeschi Trucks Podcast with spaces. And if you want to follow the show on Instagram, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast with no spaces. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram as well at Adam Choit. If you want to follow me, I have another podcast. It's called People We Love Podcast. I interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other entertainment types, creators. It's a casual conversation about their lives and careers, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who they admire, who've influenced them, inspired them. It's a lot of fun. Please check that out at People We Love Podcast on Instagram and peoplewelovepodcast.com. But for today's episode of this podcast, my guest is entrepreneur and restaurateur Tim Stevens. From Clearwater to Atlanta, we talked Tim's musical journey from recording cassettes and VHS tapes as a kid to hobnobbing with all sorts of influential patrons at the establishments he helped make successes over the years. In 2017, he opened From the Earth. Quite simply, the place is all about beer, food, and music. That's live music, of course. We cover so much in this one. Derek, Susan, Falcon, Colonel Bruce, Jimmy Herring, the rest of TTB. So much packed into this one. Tim is a great music fan, so let's just get started with him. Here's Tim Stevens. So it's good to see you today, Tim Stevens. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, for sure. How are you holding up during whatever year this is?
I'm in the restaurant industry, so it's been tough with the pandemic and thinking you're coming out. So you plan all sorts of activities, and then all of a sudden the light switch gets shut back off. So it's been kind of a juggling act for the past couple of years, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, I'm sorry it's been tough times, but that's good that you're getting through it, and we'll get into your business, I'm sure, as we move forward. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and kind of where you grew up and maybe some family stuff, and we'll get into what kind of music, what are your earliest music memories? That's probably a good question.
Sure. Yeah, no, I grew up in Clearwater, Florida. Was there my whole adult life. And then I moved up to Atlanta when I was right after my 21st birthday, and was coming up here to finish college and fell in love with Atlanta, and I've been here ever since. My musical background started with, I think my first show was Rod Stewart and Jefferson Airplane, or Starship, I think is what they were being called back then. I don't know, 12, maybe 10, 12 years old. But it was fun. However, that really wasn't, my music by any means. When I was that age, I was just trying to figure stuff out and listening to mostly just radio music. I guess tapes. I started trading tapes when I got into high school and kind of got into the Grateful Dead, and still have a huge collection of their tapes and videos and, all of that fun stuff, the VHSs, which I don't even know why I have anymore. Definitely don't have any way to play them, but so that was probably my first introduction to kind of the jam band scene was the Dead, and fell in love with that. And late high school, I started listening to Widespread Panic. And then obviously when I moved up to Atlanta, they were a big part of my life. I've probably seen over 300 shows for Panic. And
wow,
with Panic, kind of led me down the road with Colonel Bruce, and Colonel Bruce and I used to be very good friends, and followed all of his different band projects, for the past 20 years. And it's cool, we getting kind of fast forwarding here, when.
Yeah, we'll jump around. That's okay. I'm going to take us back though, too.
Okay. Yeah. When Falcon and I first met, I remember seeing a Colonel Bruce show in Alabama, in Birmingham, and this place called Zydeco, which is like a small, like maybe an 8-foot roof ceiling. It was smoky. It was, an upscale dive, I guess, for music. And Colonel actually had a misstep and fell and took out his whole speaker stack. And I was talking to him. This was, what was it? Colonel Bruce, and it was him. It was Falcon, Bobby Lee Rogers, Colonel, and Ted Pecchio. I believe it was Ted Pecchio. Yeah, Ted Pecchio on bass. I can't remember the name of that band, but anyways, I brought that up to both Falcon and then later Ted, and we both had a big chuckle after. I think I was one of 100 people at that show, and the fact that he did fall, he got up and hammed it up completely. So really, nobody was hurt, but it besides probably his ego, but it was just a funny experience going back 20 years and telling Falcon that I was there, and he's like, oh my God, what a small world.
And that's all, obviously, if it's 20 years ago, that's pre-TTB, of course.
Oh, way.
Yeah.
This was like Falcon's first real gig.
Damn.
Yeah. So
yeah, TTB is 2010-ish, and you're talking 20 years ago. That's like early 2000s,
maybe
in the 90s even.
Yeah. It was early 2000s. But anyways, that was just kind of a fun story that we kind of go back to and talk about. In fact, all three of them now, Ted, Bobby Lee, and Falcon, have played many times at the restaurant. So, every time we get together, we kind of talk about Colonel Bruce and bring up those old memories, which were always fun.
Very cool. What about even before you were like 12 and saw that Rod Stewart, Jefferson, whatever show? Was there music around the house? Did you play any instruments or anything like that? What were your family influences, or what do you remember?
Sure. No, I remember listening then to the oldies station in my mom's car and around the house. My dad used to have like a really incredible high-end sound system in the living room. And we would listen to everything on there. Some of his favorites were the Kingston Trio and, some old school folk type music, which was cool, gave me a whole different look at music. I didn't really start playing any instruments until I was in college. Maybe a little bit before that, maybe late high school, I started playing drums. And then when I was in college, I got a guitar and started playing a little bit with all of that too.
Gotcha. And do you still, I see, is that a real guitar behind you over your left shoulder there? It looks like on the wall.
Yeah, there's there
you go.
The other two guitars over there by all my concert posters are, it's art.
Yeah.
Not real. And I've got a couple upstairs as well. We're in the man cave right now. So
like I said, we're going to jump around, but are you still playing these days?
I am not in front of many people, but yeah, I do play just for fun. Not in a concert or a venue type setting at all, but just sitting around a campfire type stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same exact way. Started playing guitar in college, played a little bit of music before then in school or whatever, and now just kind of like doing it for fun. What were do you remember about like the early days when you first started playing guitar in college? What was super challenging for you? What did you remember wanting to play? Tell me about the real early days, because I'm always curious about how people get from like terrible not knowing how to play to being competent, like that journey.
I remember it like yesterday. Several of my friends were like really, really solid musicians. In fact, one has moved on. He's a luthier now. In fact, he used to work on Colonel's guitars. But we'd sit down at a party, obviously having several drinks beforehand, and they just start going into theory and you do this, you do that. And I was like freaking lost. I couldn't even follow. So it took me really playing by myself at home to kind of figure it out. And they were talking so far above my head that it was like nonsense. So that's how I was introduced to playing my guitar.
Cool. I'll let you kind of like continue your journey, like the college, and where do we go from there? Like sort of musically, what were you into? I know you said obviously Widespread Panic is a big thing. It has been a big thing, but I'll kind of let you tell me your journey with your business ventures and career and musical journey, and let you do your thing.
So,
Jump in.
I guess we'll jump back to when I moved up to Atlanta.
Sure.
Started going to Georgia State University, which is right in downtown Atlanta, and I was going to school for hotel restaurant management. At that time, I was working as a server at the Buckhead Diner, which is kind of the used to be the go-to place in Buckhead for quality diner style food. But instead of a meatloaf, it was a veal and wild mushroom meatloaf, and just kind of big twists on some of the traditional stuff. And from there, I was promoted to Nava, which was a Southwestern restaurant that opened in '97. And I was promoted to manager, and then quickly after that to general manager. And that was with the Buckhead Life Group. They're kind of the premier restaurant. They were the premier, and still probably the premier restaurant group here in Atlanta. And then I was operating a multi-store operator for them with operating Chops Lobster Bar, which is super high-end steakhouse, and a steakhouse / oyster bar, a private club, and then still Nava as well. So I was running 4 of their concepts.
Did you enjoy this work and this restaurant journey up to this point? What do you?
Well,
what jumps out at you, I guess, as far as the highlights or lowlights of the restaurant life in your early years?
Are you saying just while I was at Buckhead Life, or to date?
Well, back then.
The I was living jobs. I was operating one of the top restaurants in the country. You want a ticket someplace, people were throwing you tickets. I was, crazy experience.
Wow.
Met all sorts of very influential people there. People from actors to Michael Jordan to, really, I could go through a list, and I probably met half of those people just because that was the place to go.
In Atlanta, in the city like that. I'm not super familiar with Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's like downtown.
Yeah. Well, so there's a downtown. This is Buckhead. So it's just north of downtown. Maybe about 10, 15 miles north of true downtown Atlanta. This was kind of the upscale suburb back in the day. Now everything's, grown so far outside of the city that Buckhead now is considered in town for sure living. And, I'm 15 minutes north of that now. So, with population, things kind of expand, and that's kind of where we are here. But so that's really where I cut my teeth on managing restaurants. I've worked with several celebrity chefs. Jean-Georges out of New York. I was I was beverage director / general manager / I helped him develop a couple concepts as well. So I was kind of his key guy here in Atlanta. And then after that, I opened a restaurant with Kevin Rathbun and Peter Kaiser. I came in as more of a consultant and opened that up. Nice steakhouse with 2 celebrity Atlanta chefs, basically, is what that was. And then later that year, I opened From the Earth Brewing Company, which is my project.
When was From the Earth opened? 2017. Okay, so that's a fairly new venture.
We just celebrated
cool.
4 years, right? 17. Yeah. We just celebrated 4 years.
Well, congratulations for sure with that. Yeah. That's exciting. That's great. Do you ever get like starstruck or flustered or have to pinch yourself even when you've encountered some of these either celebrity chef and collaborators or patrons who've crossed your path over the years? Does anyone be like, whoa, or you ever
Yeah. I
caught
mean,
off
still
guard?
very much so. You know, the first time I actually met Derek and Susan, I acted like an asshole.
An
Honestly.
asshole, or just
Just an
kind of
idiot.
like that.
Just an
That's different.
idiot.
Those are different
Yeah,
things.
well,
Those are different
yeah.
things.
Yeah, no. So my wife and I were at the Fox. This was for a Wheels of Soul tour, and Kebby and Falcon invited us backstage after the show, and so we went back there. And Kebby was the only one downstairs in the meet and greet, and so he's like, "Hey, let's go out to the bus." So my wife and I were heading out to the bus, and ran into Derek and Susan walking out to the meet and greet. And my wife was first, and she was cool as a cucumber. And then I come along, I'm like, "Oh, you got to come up to my brewery." Derek's like, "Cool, where is it?" I said, "Oh, it's up in Roswell. What's the name?" Completely spaced the name of my brewery. It was so just, I was just really so flustered.
It was a new bar though. If this was a few years ago, you had just opened it. So
We had just opened, but
there,
still,
there you go.
know?
There's an out for you, an excuse.
Yeah, and then I'm walking away, and they're just laughing at me. I'm like, from the earth. Yeah, come to from the earth. That was so ridiculous. But you look back, and it was kind of funny now.
Yeah, a few people I've talked to have similar, I guess, embarrassing moments or
Yeah.
stories of being flustered around Derek and Susan. I'm sure they've encountered it before. Was that your first time ever? I'm guessing. Well, I guess I have no idea. Is that your first time seeing Derek and Susan perform music live, or you'd seen?
No,
You'd
no.
seen. That's the first time you met them, but you'd seen them perform before.
Correct. Yes, many times, many times. Yeah.
I guess tell me about that. Like, when did you first discover Derek and/or Susan?
I mean, shoot, I remember Derek again. He was sitting in with Colonel Bruce 100 years ago almost. I mean, he was like 14 years old, and he was ripping it up with Colonel Bruce. So I knew of him for years.
For almost since the beginning. You're one of those.
Yeah. I mean, and then Derek Truck's band came, which I was a big fan of as well. Actually everybody in that band besides Derek has played at my venue as well, which is cool. I mean, all this kind of comes back to Colonel Bruce and how all of these people were developed through Colonel. I was attached to Colonel too, and because of that, we've all become friends. Jimmy Herring's another one. We were at a friend of mine's studio. It's a locally organic farm that we source our vegetables from, and he's got a studio there. And Jimmy Herring was getting ready to go out for the 5 of 7 tour. I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now. And Jimmy and I got into a huge discussion about Colonel Bruce as well. I mean, all of these greats have all been touched by this wonderful guy. And, all the stories that come out are just hilarious. He was a funny guy.
I feel lucky to get even some of those stories from you and other guests, and just from being part of the whole TTB world in some capacity. Because as we all know, Derek and Susan are going to introduce their fans to other artists that they don't know or don't know as well, and that just leads you down one rabbit hole to the next, and before you know it, you're listening to that person's music. It just opens doors, opens your ears to new stuff, and that's right. They're obviously music fans, Derek and Susan, but they educate their own fans about music history. And
absolutely. And look at their covers that they play, and it is a tribute to their passion as well as incredible past musicians. I mean, it's that whole what's the name of the most recent Layla, the Layla, what was it, Layla
Revisited the album, I have it behind me. The Layla Live at Lock-In.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, that whole and the fact that Derek toured with him as well is just insane too. But I mean, that those are legends. That's you don't get much better than Clapton. even though I'd put Derek right up with him.
Yeah, for sure. What about Susan? When did you when do you first remember following her or seeing
So
her perform or anything like
the
that?
Susan Tedeschi band. Dave Yoke is also a good friend of mine. He was the lead guitarist for them when they were coming up, and that music was just it grabbed your soul. Her voice is just beyond amazing, as we all know, and she can rip the guitar as well. I mean, it's a full package.
Yeah, and she's always had those abilities. Like listening back
Yeah,
to some of her older albums that you
yeah,
see
for
behind.
sure.
Like I love those too for sure. Like I love everything that they've done. Like unconditionally.
Yeah,
Like I'm just willing to go wherever they like want to go musically. And like a lot of fans, including myself, throughout being a fan, like we all want to suggest covers.
sure.
We all want to suggest songs and suggest covers to them directly on social media, or whatever. But it's like they're such huge music fans themselves and have such a knowledge of history. It's like, at this point, it's just like let them pick whatever
Let
they
them
want.
surprise us. I mean,
Right.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're all enthusiastic and all have our favorite songs and things that are touching us in any
Oh, of
given moment. So
course.
I'll listen to some random song and I'll be like, oh, this sounds like a Tedeschi truck song. I could
Yeah.
hear them doing this part. I could hear how maybe the
Yes.
horns or
Yes.
the vocals, background vocals
Absolutely.
would fit. So I'm doing it a little bit myself. I'll let you kind of continue the journey and the story from like
Gotcha. Gotcha.
discovering
So
Susan Tedeschi band with seeing Derek grow,
yeah,
all that.
it was a really good time. I was had a great job, so I was able to travel and see a lot of these shows all over the country. That was all of the above with Panic and Dead. I think the Dead were kind of, I don't know what version they were on at that point, but I wasn't seeing, if they came locally, I'd see them, but I'd travel for Derek, Panic, Colonel Bruce if it's like a drive, but I'm not going to get on a plane.
Just as a fan, you weren't working, you weren't selling beer or merch or had a rest.
Oh, just
You
as a
just
fan. No, yeah,
you love music.
just to go and have fun. Yeah. Well, and that's
Always loved it, huh?
that's kind of what led me to From the Earth, which is an upscale brew pub is really what it is. But our three passions are music, beer, and food, and we do a ton of music. During the pandemic, we were the first to start the drive-in theaters back in, I want to say, May of, I guess what, May of 20. May of 20 was our first show, and we had Jeff Mosier, which again is a Colonel Bruce alum, and just worked our way through it. I would see Falcon and Kebby and Rivers at my buddy's recording studio. So we'd hang out, and I'd bring dinner over for them a lot when they were recording or practicing, and that's how we kind of got to know each other. And through the last three and a half years, Falcon has brought all sorts of different bands through FTE with him piecing them together. The most recent, I don't know if you've heard of the Murder Hornets.
Yeah, it's another one of
Yeah,
his
side
ventures, right?
project. So they were formed and built at From the Earth,
How
which
about
is
that?
kind of a cool story. In fact, I think they've only played one other place besides From the Earth, Lock-In, which was just this year. They haven't played anywhere else, and so they've got a special place in my heart for putting that together and me having that story to tell, because it's a cool story.
Did Falcon play with all the acts that you're talking about that he's brought through from the earth,
Yeah.
they're just acts he kind of like suggested for you guys, or
Well, both,
both?
but he played with the most. I mean, I'd call him and say, "Hey, I need something for this," and he'd put it together.
Yeah.
Um, for our 1 year anniversary, I mentioned this earlier before we really got into this. He put together, it was basically Tedeschi Trucks Band without Susan and Derek. I mean, we had Kebby for horns, Kofi, that was one of his last shows he played, unfortunately. we had Falcon, obviously, Boone, um, Mosier was there. I mean, it was a 12-piece band on this little, well, I think our stage is like 14 by 20 or something ridiculous. And we had 12 musicians up there. It was cool. And Kevy actually has been up quite a bit doing some jazz, just like some off the wall jazz.
Yeah, he's into that from what I gather.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah. We had a tribute to Colonel Bruce. I guess no, it was last year. And Kevy did a late night set with Kevin Scott, Kevy, and Darren Stanley, which they're all Colonel Bruce alums besides Kevy. They did a late night jazz jam at FTE, and it got kind of weird. It was fun. I mean, we had a ball, but it got out there.
I bet for for sure. What about yourself? You ever get up there at your brewery and play? Never.
It ain't about me. No. I've never.
But in the right setting, if it was like a jam or you were invited,
maybe. I mean, maybe, but no. I don't even bring my guitars in. I have no. They're the professionals. Let them handle that. I'll sit in the back and drink some beers and hoot and holler.
What about not on a stage? Have you ever had a chance to jam or play guitar with any of your heroes or anything like that?
That would be cool. I mean, like I said, Jimmy is one of my heroes, Jimmy Herring, and I spent several nights with him but you're a little kind of geeky there too. You're like, okay, play whatever you want to play. I'm just going to sit here and watch. And that's exactly what happened. And I was totally fine with that. Derek and Susan, I don't think have been to the shop. To the recording studio. I know they're very good friends with the owner of that, but I don't know if they've ever been there. But
yeah, they have their own.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, they're their own. And in fact, they did some of the fireside sessions down at their farm.
Right.
And my buddy was able to go down for a couple of those, which was awesome. I mean,
yeah, I can only imagine being there. I think I've said those words before. I can only imagine being there, like when I reviewed those.
He was lucky enough to get an invite at the last minute, but he said he was like the only one there that wasn't either in the band or involved in the production for that. But he said, after the set, they would get behind the bar and Susan was making drinks, and they're just super, super, super sweet, down to earth people.
That's what everyone says, and I keep saying that's what everyone says, but that's what everyone keeps saying, and all the evidence points to that. And just as a fan from afar, just having met Derek and Susan here and there over the years, but I'm not like friends with them. But everyone who is or has crossed their paths, even just everyone says the same thing.
Well, I wouldn't go to the point where we're like buddies. I don't pick up the phone and ask him what he's doing for dinner. But yeah, I mean, we've met many times in the past few years. So, they'd recognize me if not know my name. But again, it's not about that. It's about the whole band. The whole band's like that. Every time we go to a show, and I usually go with my buddy, we go out to dinner with them. We hang out with them. It's just a very cool, laid back experience. Go on the bus. We're just sitting around talking. It's actually not as cool as I thought it would be.
Oh, you don't want to say that.
Well, I mean, you're right.
I know. I do know what is it like the well, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, it's you expect a party, you expect and sometimes there is, typically when they have a break in between shows. But they're a lot of fun to go out with too. I mean, the whole band, they're just awesome. But all of them are just so nice and unassuming. And, I mean, like, I'm just going to point Rivers out. I cooked dinner for him one time over at the studio, and I saw him somewhere with Tedeschi trucks, and, hey, how you doing, Tim? Good to see you. It's like, how does he remember me? So they're down to earth, it's not like somebody that is looking down upon us. They're not like that at all.
What did you cook for Mark Rivers? Because maybe that had a lot to do with him remembering your name.
That's very kind. I think we did that. They were cutting a record for Foxy. Have you ever heard of Foxy down in the British Virgin Islands? He's got a bar. he's got a bar, a very popular bar, and he started this this music kids music school that my studio friend is very involved with. And so he brought down a bunch of guys down there, and the hurricane guys, like, I don't know if Falcon went, I know Kebby, and he brought like 10 musicians down to kind of kick the thing off, and brought down a bunch of instruments as well. And so he was super involved. And then the hurricanes came through, and everything was just demolished. So they put this record together to rebuild the school. And so, they were all over there. There was probably about 15 people, and we did a 6-course dinner for them. So I don't even remember what it was. I know, I'm sure there was a big fat steak in there somewhere, but yeah, we just kept sending out courses. I think we paired it with some wine too, but it was kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about how, the band is so friendly and personable and down to earth, but there's like so many things that they must do charity wise and behind the scenes that we just don't even know about. It goes like, because they're not the type of people, anyone in the band, looking for credit or attention or
it's
PR.
not about that.
Yeah.
It's because they love what they're doing. I mean, that's what it's about. Passion, and they love playing.
And people and they love people and the fans and caring about humanity. And I think a lot of that tone, although it permeates throughout the band, is definitely set, I think, from Derek and Susan. They obviously seek out top-notch musicians to play with, but obviously character, is equally as important, and especially in this band, it seems
100%. When they were looking for a replacement for JJ, they had several people that I know that went and tried out for them. But it was more than just the drummer. They were looking for somebody that would fit with Falcon's playing, so they didn't want somebody similar. So anyways, it's interesting, their selection, but it's always, it's really, from how I see it, it's from the bottom of their heart. They want somebody that'll fit and be able to grow with them rather than plug a spot.
Yeah, I almost get nervous sometimes, because there's a lot of moving parts, and not all bands last forever. Many don't, most don't. So I want this band, of course, to last as long as possible. But there is such an emphasis on this band, and I guess there's a lot of this probably comes from Derek, is that just the whole thought of growing and exploring new music and keeping writing and recording and going to new territory, and just listening to some of the recordings of the shows that came out this past week. Where were they? In New Orleans? They were in the South. I forget where they were. I forget where they were, but anyway,
yeah,
I'm hearing new stuff.
I think New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm still hearing new sounds and new stuff, from Derek, from the band, the things that surprised me and catch my ear. And that, definitely gives me confidence that this band is not going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. They're growing, and that's awesome. That's what I want to see, almost in this, in a selfish sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but they were the hardest working touring band, 3 years ago. I mean, I think they did almost 160 shows or something, super, super big. And I think that is what really propelled them so quickly. Well, I shouldn't say so quickly. They've been around for 10 or 12 years, whatever it is. But really got people's attention. Maybe it was one of the shows at what's that venue I just was speaking about, where Murder Hornets played?
The Fox? No.
Lock-In.
Lock-In, yeah. How many times have you seen Tedeschi Trucks, man? Do you remember when the band formed, and what did your initial thoughts? It's all kind of a blur, or?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that far back. I don't remember when the first time I saw him. I think it was at some festival, and I'm sure Panic was involved, and that's why I was there, and they came on and it blew me away. I'm not sure which one it was or if Panic even played, but that would make sense why I was there. Yeah, no, I'm not exactly sure when I started seeing them.
Yeah. How many times do you think you've seen TTB over the
You
years?
know, I don't keep track. Even with Panic, I didn't ever keep track. And
Yeah.
then people started counting, and I started going back and I started counting them up, and I stopped at 300. I'm like over 300 at this point, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would venture to say 40 to 50 times easy.
Yeah.
Could be more. Yeah.
Because you live also in a bit of a hot spot for shows where you
Sure.
can drive to a lot of different shows.
Absolutely. In fact, a few months ago, I saw them up in Chattanooga for the night. They were up there for, no, they stayed the night before. Yeah, no. So I only saw them for that one night. But yeah, I mean, for an hour and 20-minute drive, why not?
Yeah. No, certainly.
Yeah.
What are your, do you have favorite shows that jump out at you, or special
I tell you,
shows or venues?
the
Seeing them.
Beacon was one of my favorite. We were up there, I think in 19, right before the pandemic, and it was so much fun. We had a great time. Venue was superb. The set lists were freaking awesome as well, and just the whole atmosphere. You know, one of Falcon's buddies across the street from the venue owned a bar, a nice quality cocktail bar. So after the show, we went there, and you know, I don't even know what time it was when we got home, but we were having some fun. It was just cool. You know, they were blowing off some steam. They were off the next day, and so we were able to go have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. What a great time. Like, I guess like obviously those Beacon shows are very special. And I had my first Beacon experience last year. So that was cool for me. I think it's just like something about the almond tradition
Sure.
and the New York energy combined with it being a residency
Yeah.
and just like the idea that like people are coming from all over the country and all over the
All over the
world
country. Yeah, for sure.
even to see these shows. So everyone who's there really, really loves the band and wants to be there. And you could feel that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and you can feel them feeling that too. I mean, they take it to another level when I saw them there, anyways.
Right. They're very in tune with the audience
Oh, sure.
and certainly sometimes making set list changes based on it,
Yeah.
crossing things
Well,
out.
you know, that's a funny story. I was asking. I don't remember. Oh, it was in Chattanooga when I was up there recently. We went out to lunch with Kebby, and I'm like, "Who writes the set lists?" And he goes, "You know, we meet for dinner every night of the show, and we discuss it all then." I'm guessing, you know, Falcon and Derek, which is from what I heard before he said this, was the ones that really kind of put it together. I could be wrong. This is just, you know, what I've heard.
Well,
But
from my
Kebby
you go
said
on.
it was the whole entire band that contributed.
From what I gather, and from some conversations with Bobby Tees outside the stage tour at the Beacon, if I recall, it is definitely Derek who sort of steers the
Yeah.
ship, certainly, and I think maybe primarily throws ideas out at the beginning. But they have an app that they use where they sort of discuss it also. And I think everyone just kind of approves it. From what I mean, I could be wrong. I
Maybe
don't want.
that's it. That may be it.
I think everyone just kind of like signs off on it and like there's some conversation, but I think Derek is the one who probably
Drives
puts
the ship.
the
It
most
makes
thought
sense.
into things.
His name is in the title, so that
that's
makes sense.
that's true. Um, I mean, this is sort of a dumb question. I've actually not asked this question to anyone. I don't know why I'm thinking of it now, but do you have favorite Tedeschi Trucks band songs? Song or songs?
I mean,
They're like your
I like
children. You
going.
can't pick one.
Well, you know, I definitely have some favorites, ones that I just love. But I kind of like being surprised. You know, I certainly never want to know the set list before going in. You know, I like, you know,
Same.
figuring out what song it is. You know, even when we have shows at my restaurant, you know, they have set lists sitting there. I'm like, I have no interest in seeing that first. You know, play me the song, then I'll take the set list.
I remember watching, I think it was one of the Red Rock shows, and you could see the set list taped on on Isaac's drums or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to see that. The
Yeah.
cameras are zooming in or whatever.
Yeah, no, I've seen that too, and I think it was Red Rocks as well. I'm not sure if it was this year or not,
It's funny.
but it was it's funny. But I was doing the same thing. I'm like, oh man, what
Yeah, some people want to know. Or maybe I guess I shouldn't speak for other people, but like,
yeah, I like being surprised.
I think people just like to guess. I see that a lot at shows, or that's always the conversation. What do you think we're going to hear tonight? We heard this last night, so we're not going to hear that tonight, or maybe we will this version, or maybe they'll do an acoustic version of that.
Sure.
It's definitely fun to speculate, for sure. Wow, so many great experiences and stories, and it's so cool that you're friends with some members of the band,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
you lived
It's
quite the life, quite the wild life. Well, maybe not
it,
wildlife,
listen,
but
it
in
it
some
did wasn't
ways.
always this way. You kind of hinted how I enjoyed the restaurant business, and it's up and down. Right now it's up. Right now it's awesome. I'm living the dream. You know, 4 years ago, not so good. 3 years ago, not so good. But it's a passion. Just like the musicians. If you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to do it very well.
I've
Um,
heard this.
yeah. So it's something I love. Along with music, and I'm glad to be able to put them both together.
What's I guess what's next for your establishment, or in terms of music upcoming? Do you got shows
Well, we're putting
upcoming or anything?
together a spring and summer series. We opened a venue directly behind the brew pub. That it's like a 600 person outdoor, almost. It's a concrete amphitheater, is what it is. We've got a food truck as well, and we set the food truck up there and a bunch of bars and let people bring in chairs and tables, and it's kind of a chill night. And there's all sorts of different music. I'm sure that's where the Murder Hornet started, is on these outdoor shows that I started putting on.
So is this stage that you're talking about, the 600 person amp? What'd you call it? Like
It's a
a
concrete amphitheater. It's a parking lot with a nice slope, with grass on the sides.
So
Yeah.
this what you didn't have this stage originally at your location. You
No,
added.
this
When did
is
you add this you said?
this. Well, I started doing them smaller, like on the same stage in like a 20 by 20 tent, in May of 2000, right in the middle of COVID, I guess. Um, it was so successful, and the community loved it so much. I'm like, I want to continue. One of our neighbors in the center that I was at, where we were hosting these shows, complained to the owner, and even though he shut down at 6 o'clock at night, our 8 o'clock shows were an inconvenience for him. So we had to find a new venue. So it took me a couple months, but I put a whole new package together that can hold about 30% more people than what we could out in front of the restaurant. And it's right behind us, so we have more space. It's a much better setup. There's no trees or anything in the parking lot. I mean, it's a perfect view. And with that, we upped the production completely. So we were doing it on a 3 foot high stage, and a 20 by 20 tent covering them. Now we're bringing in the big SL 100s that are a 40 by 20 stage on a flatbed, with lights and the whole 9 yards. So as we're growing, the whole production and the whole the band selection, all of that is really kind of going up to that next level, which is super exciting for me.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations again with all that. That's super cool. And I could edit that clip out of you describing all your plans and what your thoughts are, and I'll use that as my pitch to Derek and Susan for them to play at
Listen,
your spot
I would love that.
someday.
I would love that. Yes. Um, and then the other thing, we're right now currently in the process of opening a steakhouse right next door to the brew pub. So it'll be an upscale steakhouse as well.
Is that going to be under the same From the Earth banner, or have a different?
That actually, the name of the steakhouse will be Bask, Bask Steakhouse. And the thought behind that is the whole thing is looking to be a high-end steakhouse with the twist, like super high-end craft cocktails. The wine list will be incredibly deep. The food will be awesome. The atmosphere itself, walking in, it's going to be beautiful. And bask, where you're like, oh, I'm basking, I'm basking in the light. This is freaking amazing. That's what we're hoping, from service to atmosphere to food. And so we thought that name Bask kind of fit right in.
I am not doubting that you will achieve all that. I am not doubting that you will achieve all that for sure. That's great. That's super cool. And I just love to hear all this stuff from like people who are entrepreneurs and business types. I respect that because as obviously like you're describing, it's not easy and there's a lot of risk involved and hard times and it takes time to build something. And I think that's cool that there's people out there who take these chances and see rewards from them and get to do something that you're passionate about
Yeah,
and combine different passions, combining the music and the music, beer, and food.
that's it.
I mean, that's kind of sometimes it's best to keep things simple. People overcomplicate things. Like
Yeah,
stick to what you're most passionate about, even if it's not just one thing. It shouldn't be one thing, but to combine those three things is definitely great for
yeah.
sure. For sure. What about other Derek and any other Derek Susan stories or Tedeschi Trucks Band stories or notable moments or highlights from shows or interactions? I mean, we kind of we jumped around. We covered a lot of all that already, but I kind of want to just do my due diligence with you because I know you've had a lot of amazing experiences over the years with many people connected to that world.
Honestly, with me being a fan from much longer, than we've been friends. Every time we hang out, I'm like, this is cool as shit. I want to pinch myself because I enjoy speaking to them, and hanging out, but these are fucking rock stars, I mean, it's
Legends. They
awesome.
are legends.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly for sure. Yeah, it's almost like what you love is the feeling that the feeling that music brings, I want to say, but like the feeling that the music brings and the feeling that you have like just when you think about the band or see the band or listening to the music, it's such a positive emotion, I guess. And like you can
Absolutely.
become addicted to that and that's like a good addiction. That's like a positive like habit. Like it's and I've talked in different podcast episodes about how music is healing and music is
I
medicine and
agree with that.
music is
Yeah.
important in our lives and not always thought of as such. It's sometimes thought of as just recreation or extracurricular to our lives, but it's
It
more
kind of
than
is all
that.
the above.
It's
Yeah.
essential.
Yeah, I agree. I was, again, nobody else in Atlanta was doing any live music when I started this. And hearing the people that would say exactly that coming into the venue, they're like, you saved us. We were going stir crazy. At this point, it was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 months since they've seen live music. And people need it. I mean, it's incredible.
You don't even know you need it sometimes, or don't even know how much you need it until you're there. And I think it's that way with the any type of arts, but especially music hits
Yeah.
people differently. But any type of the arts or even just cultural activities or whatever the case may be, we need comedy. Like all this stuff is I think totally essential to humanity as a species to feed us, to nurture us in different ways than food and water does.
Sure. I've seen it. I agree 100% with what you're saying. It is needed. And, I love to be able to go and do it, but I also love being able to throw parties at my venue, and it's freaking fun. You're walking around, you get to talk to everybody, you're meeting the band, you're having a beer with the band in between sets. I mean, it's like a dream. I mean, it's great.
And again, it's definitely you, and it's definitely the bands that you bring in, be it members of TTB or otherwise, that
Sure.
really I'm guessing like set that tone of it being fun, whether it's a upscale place or whatever type of type of business you've been a part of, like I'm guessing that like all the patrons like appreciate like that tone and that atmosphere that you've cultivated over the years.
I think that's why we've been successful through this, pandemic, was the fact that I was so involved in the community, and then it's a fun place. You can go and hang out and have a beer or see a freaking killer show, or dinner. There's always something going on. There's always people to talk to. I mean, it's a very local supported concept, which is really what we needed. That's that.
And I got to get over there. I got to get over there. I got to get over.
Yeah.
I got to visit that part of the country because I got to go to the Big House Museum. I got to go do a whole tour over there. I'm going to try to get down there and like do some podcast episodes, do some live stuff, shoot some video things. We're going to get a lot of stuff done this year. We'll see. But these are just some thoughts swirling in my head, for sure.
When Derek and Susan book, you'll definitely have to come down for that.
Right. That is my goal, is definitely to go to shows outside of Southern California this year, and not just the Beacon, but like, I don't even care. Like, I go anywhere. Like, I just, just to see the music and hear the music at new places and have new experiences with the band would be super fun.
Well, if you get to the Dirty South, please let me know. I'll meet up with you.
I'm coming. I hope so. Anything else we should cover, or you want to tell me the latest with the restaurant, or did we kind of cover that all?
I think we covered all that.
From the Earth Brewing, FTEbrewing.com. I got it up right here. I'll handle some of the plugs here myself.
Okay, cool.
For you. But yeah, it's a cool website. I was glancing at it. I know that you guys are definitely on the organic side with stuff and
sure.
support local businesses and local growers and whatnot, which is also another cool thing on top of everything else that you're doing. Anything else you want to plug or promote, or things that people could follow you, or I don't know if you're completely a public figure, so to speak, but other than the restaurant, what's up?
I think so, but
yeah, other than promoting your businesses. From the Earth Brewing and what town is it technically?
Roswell, Georgia.
Roswell, not Roswell, New Mexico. Originally I did make that. I was confused about that at first when I first heard. I think, do you know David Flam at all? Because he actually recommended. Yeah, he recommended you to me, and he's like, I'm going to a show in Roswell. I'm like, where?
Yeah. Yeah. So did he come to the Murder Hornets, or one of their?
Probably that dude.
Yeah,
that dude.
They were fun.
A fan of all the members of TTB, especially friendly with the ones from that part of the country as well.
There's quite a few from this part of the country.
Yep. From the Earth Brewing, FTEbrewing.com. Definitely check that out, especially if you're in that area. Go in person and check it out, but if not, fly and drive and take a train, and I'm going to try to do one of those things soon. Tim, I definitely appreciate your time. Great stuff all around. That's so awesome. What a life you lived, and you deserve it, because I'm sure you've worked worked hard over the years. Running a restaurant is not an easy business.
No, it's not. And thank you for having me. I enjoyed chatting about definitely a passion of mine. So
for sure. I appreciate it. Let's talk more soon.
Sounds good.
You gotta have a good night.
You too.
Later. So there you go. Episode 68 with Tim Stevens. That was fun. I definitely, again, appreciate his time. And thank you to David Flam for suggesting Tim for the show. Anyway, for now, hope everyone out there is doing okay. Please check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. Please remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or via whichever way you listen to this show. Positive reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts are, of course, greatly appreciated and helpful. Tedeschi Trucks Podcast is the YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Adam Choit. The band, Tedeschi Trucks Band, if you want to visit their website, their official site, it's TedeschiTrucksBand.com. My other podcast is People We Love. Check out at People We Love Podcast, peoplewelovepodcast.com. But I think that's about all I got for today. I hope you guys got that all down. But seriously, thank you again for listening. I really appreciate it. Plenty more to come. Let's talk soon. Later.